Have you ever had an emotional outburst that you later regretted? I would like to say that's never happened to me, but that's not really the truth. And in this week's intuitive living tip, I want to share with you what I've learned about that and how to intuitively recognize when you're being overwhelmed with emotions, why you're being overwhelmed with emotions, and just exactly what you can do about it so that you can actually still honor the fact that you have emotion without having to go so far overboard that it makes you uncomfortable. I'm Michelle DesPres, clairvoyant medium and author of The Clairvoyant Path, and I work with intuitives like yourself who are experiencing the idea that they can create their reality and are wanting to move themselves out of their limitations. They're wanting to move out of the idea that they're overworked and undervalued, and they want their information to be heard for the value and the benefit that it really is. Intuition is our solution today, and those of us that are intuitive really need to be thinking about how can I best give my information so that we can heal the world and change the world. So let's get to this week's intuitive living tip. In this week's intuitive living tip, I want to cover the intuitive tool that we call a gauge. And a gauge is just that. Mine is set from 0 to 100, and it just simply allows me to gauge energy. And we're going to talk about that some more. But I want to talk more first about the idea of emotions and just exactly what are emotions and where do they come from. So emotions are memories. It's emotional remembrance. It's the feeling of having been through something before, right? We have this emotion around an event, and then that emotion comes up again sometimes and comes up again sometimes, and it's a remembrance. And each time we go into a certain type of emotion, we enact that, whether the emotion is joy or whether the emotion is sadness or sorrow. But each time that wave of emotion comes through, we follow through with the emotion. So emotions are remembrance. But we have to also remember this about ourselves. This isn't our first lifetime. We've had other lifetimes, and we have remembrance from back then that might actually be catching up with us today. And a lot of times, if we didn't process through an emotion, a loss, a sorrow, anything, if we didn't process through the emotion in the past, and it gets triggered in us again today in present time, that emotion becomes heightened. And it becomes seemingly out of proportion to what it is that we're experiencing in our lives. And that's what we don't understand about emotions, is that they're not necessarily just about what you're experiencing now. It could have been about the 5 other lifetimes that you experienced the same thing, all piling into this one. And this is where a gauge comes in handy. So with a gauge, you can put that out there, 0 to 100. How much of the emotion that I'm experiencing right now is relevant to this lifetime? If you get 90%, then you are justified with that emotion. But if you get 10%, then maybe most of the emotion you're feeling is related to past things. And what you want to do so that you can save yourself from having irrational outbursts of emotion is to check in. Oh, if 90% of the energy that I'm feeling is past life, then I'm not going to go into it right here and right now. I'm going to go and I'm going to look at what all of that past life was. And I'm going to intuitively witness, where was that information before? How did it affect me? How is today different? Now, these are a little bit more of a mastered way of dealing with intuition. And I know that these videos are really about giving you easy and simple tools. But if you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can always get into really looking at the energies and intuiting for yourself, why was that emotion enacted and how do I clear it out now? Can I process it? Can I deal with it now? Then I'll come back to the 10% of the issue that's present time. So I hope that makes some sense. This is a little bit more advanced, but also you can really just check in with that gauge. The gauge is actually very simple. 0 to 100, how much of this is present time information? If it's not that present, then move it aside for another time when you have time to go and look at it. Don't bring it into what's happening currently, or you're going to muddy your waters even more, and you're not going to get the resolutions that you're looking for. All right, so have some fun with that. If you need some help with that, of course, reach out and let me know. Great. So go ahead and share with me your comments below. I know that the emotions can be a big thing to have to traverse and get through, and it's certainly not a simple or an easy fix, but this tip should give you a good handle on what you can do about that. But let me know what you think below. Leave your comments, ask your questions, let me know how I can help. And if you're not receiving this video in your inbox, sign up below so that you can receive it, and also so you can receive my free video on the 4 foundations of intuitive leadership, so that we can really start making the changes in our own personal lives, but also in the world, and start really creating what we know is possible today. All right, everybody, share this with information with those of the people that you love and you want to see be healthy and thriving and making their way positively in the world as well. Take care. See you next week.